you that were not here this morning. My name is Maria Brackenridge, and I am with Gemalto. I'm going to be presenting the next speaker. Today we thought we'd give you the big download of data and programming and data modeling, but we also wanted to make sure that we kind of took you back a little bit, showed you some of the trends, really gave you some insight into where we are today. And so this next one is going to be the Internet of Things, the big data disruption. And I know you're just sitting on the edge of your seats, so I want to make sure that I introduce Michael to you. I've known Michael now for about 3 months now. We are working together on some projects at Gemalto and IX. So IX is Information Exchange, started back in 2013. This is Michael's baby. So he is the founder, and he is also the technologist and the business strategist behind it. So when I say that the company was started in 2013, really the technology goes back a lot further. So Michael has been an engineer, he's also been a strategist in business development in various market segments such as energy, healthcare, and information technologies. So I will pass it over to Michael so they can talk to you. What we're going to do, because we are running a little bit behind, is we're going to go through this one. He'll answer some questions. Michael is also sitting on the panel that comes after this. And then we will, after the panel, Michael will be around to meet you and talk a little bit more in detail about the presentation.
Hello everybody, can everybody hear me? So apologize for the change of the title. This is way beyond smart cities. It's not only the internet of everything, but it's probably the disruption of everything. And I hope you'll agree with me when we get done with this. So I always like to start my talks with a history lesson. So let's just talk about what the internet did to industries in the 90s and where it's at today. But let me start first by describing what the internet is, just as a review. The internet is not owned by a country, it's not owned by a company. It is a network protocol that allows for diverse networks to voluntarily peer with each other. It is an open standard for allowing your competitors' data to go through your network, essentially. That is the disruption of the internet. I have been involved in the internet since the early 90s and ran into a lot of naysayers who thought the internet was just a flash in the pan. Okay? We had dial-up online service that said, we don't need the internet, we create little walled gardens. People are going to have their little safe place to go. The internet is fraught with hackers and porn. We can keep you away from that. We had telephone companies that said, the internet protocol is dead, we're going to replace it with asynchronous transfer mode. I was personally told that I was a dreamer and a silly boy by analysts in the mid-90s when I said, no, the internet's going to take over the core of all this networking. Record companies, discount retailers that thought brick and mortar and buying records was the way you're going to do business. Let's just look at that time. Internet traffic was growing exponentially. I remember conversations in the 90s, 97, 98, when I had a terabit internet router startup, where people said, well, how long can it continue to grow exponentially? I mean, seriously, that's eventually going to taper off, right? So let's roll the camera forward to today. All right, AOL is an email service. CompuServe is gone. How many people don't even have a landline anymore? Phone companies lost. Phone companies now a cable TV provider. Okay. Music and nearly everything else is bought online, which was naysayed in the 90s. Your mobile phone is a camera, a computer, or a music player hooked up to a broadband mobile network. And the internet continues to grow exponentially. So if we don't think that connecting things to the internet is disruptive, and we think that we can ignore this, the telephone companies learned from that mistake, and they're now dead set in the Internet of Things world because they're not going to let it happen to them again. So, Note to self, never bet against the internet. I'm not going to say Internet of Things is the disruptive or is the changing thing. It will play a significant part of the next revolution. It is a harbinger of the next revolution. It will lead the revolution, but it in and of itself is not. My company has been connecting things to the internet for commercial and industrial companies for 6-7 years. The amazing thing that we've learned from this is that there is a tremendous amount of desire to see the kinds of things that Internet of Things promises from vendors, companies that don't even realize they're talking about Internet of Things. They have data needs, they have business needs, they just want them solved. What it brings, however, is a huge change to the big data landscape. So, we all know IoT creates new sources of data. No big news. Does it by bringing low-cost internet connectivity. I've heard mobile carriers in the last month talk about providing $1 a month data plans for machine-to-machine data connections on a mobile network. It enables new low-cost sensors, meters, controls to be added to the mix. But more importantly, the Internet of Things community has taken a page from the Salesforce.coms, the Facebooks, the Googles, and adopting open internet standards. Open internet standards when it comes to data formats and APIs. That's the disruption. With that said, however, in the commercial industrial world that I'm living and breathing right now, there's still resistance to adopt what you might call Internet of Things. Organizations are adopting it. They don't know that's what it is. But if you go to speak with them about, well, you need to have an Internet of Things strategy, you have a lot of executives looking at this saying, I don't know. I mean, we still have venture capitalists who are struggling with the spelling of IoT. Legacy systems predominate the landscape in a commercial industrial world. Represents the vast majority of existing infrastructure. Communication protocols are not internet friendly, nor was any internet level security even thought about when they were created. And they do not. They go out of their way to not embrace open standards. They don't embrace open APIs. They don't format their data in a manner where it can be shared with other systems. This is not making customers of legacy systems happy. And so you have customers who are looking at this problem saying, why can't all my different building automation servers just talk the same language so I can look at that data in one place and figure out what's going on in my buildings? I don't want to call it Internet of Things, I just have a problem here. So, until you solve this problem, adoption of Internet of Things as it's called and as it's commonly thought of is going to be resisted in the commercial industrial world. I know this because I'm in the middle of this. This is what my company does. There are huge security issues, but not what you think. If you bring an internet connection into a device that talks to a legacy system, and now they share a network, a LAN connection that can have internet connectivity, those systems have no concept of how to protect themselves from internet hacks. This is why your credit cards were stolen at Target. Somebody hacked in the HVAC system and happened to be on the same network as the point of sale system. 99% of our customers don't ever want their data in the cloud. Ever. This is a big problem. The Internet of Things vendors are coming and saying, oh, we're a cloud platform. We're going to monetize your data in the cloud, so trust us, it's secure. Not going to happen in the commercial industrial world. And the customers of Internet of Things are their own worst enemies. Because from customer to customer, vendor to vendor, business to business, completely inconsistent security policies. Security policies is what it's all about. How are you going, what is your policy as a business if you're going to get data from systems or allow a signal to come in from the internet, control something in your business? What is your policy for how you're going to authenticate that, secure that? What level of control are you going to allow? No thinking of this at all whatsoever. Solve these problems, and the revolution begins. With that said, the principles of what all the IoT community is adhering to are sound. Communicate at an open protocol. Okay, let's hark back to my first comment of what the internet is. It's a standard for the voluntary pairing of networks. Okay, so now we have a common network layer. The internet is not about e-commerce, it's not about all the applications and web stuff on top, it's merely a communication protocol. In and of itself, it's not about security. Open data formats. JSON is kind of one, XML is still there, but pretty much every IoT cloud stack has a JSON-based REST API. It's like motherhood and apple pie. Beautiful thing. Thank God. Finally, we now have a common way to communicate from system to system, application to application. You can thank the heathens and the Facebook and Salesforce and all those guys that were, a threat to the world 10, 15 years ago for that. But these principles are what's going to create the disruption. It is, now we talk the same language. Now I don't have too much effort to translate how you format the data to me, and we're talking on the same network protocol. Big, big deal. It eliminates data silos, and that is by far what Internet of Things represents to the commercial industrial world. So if we look at a typical, whatever, factory, company, they have these little silos. They have assets. They may have backup generators and solar panels and facility controls. Don't get me started on irrigation. They have an irrigation system that leaks, and maybe somebody finally reads the utility bill after 6 months and realizes, oh my God, we have a leak. Great response time. Safety, transportation. All of these systems typically today hook up to a proprietary system that prohibits or makes it really expensive to add more sensors, monitoring equipment down in their little silo. So it's bad enough that they have that issue. But what that causes is a huge amount of inefficiency, slow response time, non-competitiveness in the industry. And this, whether you want to call it an Internet of Things strategy or not in the business world, this is what they're asking for. Solve those problems. Make my business more efficient. I need to respond faster to problems. I need to be able to do better analytics on what's wrong and be able to streamline my business so I'm more competitive. There are budgets for that today. You don't need an Internet of Things strategy at the corporate level. There's money being spent to do that, and these are the problems that need to be solved. So IoT enables you to start adding little things down in the silos. Get a little more information. Add a meter into your energy system. Add sub-metering. I'm going to make the point later that the sub-meters are already there, they just never connected them up to a network. Add more sensors in the facilities. Add sensors metering your irrigation system so you know you've got a leak before you get your utility bill. And the state fines you and shuts off your irrigation system. Add more sensors and monitors in your safety system so that first responders have more information when they come in to address a problem. Add sensors in your transportation system so you know where your vehicles are, you know where your assets are being moved around. These are the sort of things, this is the second phase of the internet revolution. First, get the legacy stuff online. Next, start solving these little problems. Start adding, make it cost effective. They're building automation servers and systems. I won't mention names, but I've had people come to me, look, I just want to add a temperature sensor into the walk-in cooler of our university so we can notify food services when it's down on the weekend. It cost me $5 grand to add a $10 sensor to my building automation server. It's not acceptable. That's the sort of disruption that we can do, the Internet of Things like solutions can afford right now. So, the next issue is that the silos themselves don't share information with the other silos. There are no open standards to link a building automation server to a security system, to transportation system. So if you're running a business and you're looking at all of your operations, there's information over here that might be really interesting and useful to the guys running a facility. Right? There's information about my transportation status that's going to tell me a lot about other aspects of my business. Common lament of business executives, managers. Why can't I just get all this data in one place and do something with it? Why does this vendor not allow me to get this data out? Why do they want to sell me a more expensive system that's just as limited as what they've been selling me all along? That's the challenge. Enable that. Make not only the vertical connections in the silos, but connect the silos. And now we're talking what the promise of Internet of Things is to the commercial industrial world. Let's take it on another level. We have similar problems across multiple stakeholders. Cities, utilities, commercial, industrial, customers, consumers. They all have their little data silos with all their little security challenges and all their little foibles and lack of solutions down below here where Internet of Things can solve. But they don't share data. It's not like you have to open this up and share everything, but imagine if a utility could share information with a large energy customer and with a municipality who owns the right-of-way infrastructure that they deliver their services. Imagine if there was better communications there. Imagine if this customer has the ability to generate energy in an energy emergency. Right now, the way they do this is very crude. And I'm going to say, every time someone puts smart in front of something like smart grid failed on its promise. Smart grid failed on its promise because they built a network that was so constrained it could read a meter once a month. Could never deliver any services. They did a rate case, hooked up a meter to a network, and you read it once a month. That's not smart. There's no thought about sharing that data with the customers. Why do I need to get it off the utility? Why can't I get that data straight off the meter in my home? I can read it whenever I want. I don't have to wait for a month to see what my consumption is. So these are the fundamental problems when you link these silos. Now we can start talking about making things smarter. Smarter cities, smarter transportation, so on and so forth. So this is, in my view, and from my experience working with industry, this is, from the business level, what folks with the budgets, who have the ability to pay to do things, this is what they want. You go to them and say, you need to have an IoT strategy. They look and say, don't bother me, I'm trying to solve these problems. But it is the IoT strategy. You just have to approach it the right way. Let's talk about the volume of data that is there already that is not connected. I know this first one because I have customers with small buildings, typical building, 4,000 data points in the building automation server. That sits there on that server, you have to log into that server in a proprietary system and look at that data based on how they think you want to look at it. if you want to get that data out of that server on 1-minute samples, we're talking about hundreds of gigabytes or even terabytes a year. Multiply that times the entire skyline of Dallas. How much data is sitting there right now, today, completely siloed off, that is incredibly useful to get out in a place where businesses can actually start doing analytics on that data, start making real-time decisions. It's huge. It's massive. Our partner, Gemalto, has been talking to airlines. I learned something a week ago. Transoceanic flight, one jet turbine generates a terabyte of traffic on one flight. Where does that go? It goes into Boeing, it goes into the company. But might that information be useful? Pieces of that information be extracted and shared with other systems to have a better understanding of safety and so on. Lastly, this is my favorite. This is my first real commercial and industrial Internet of Things experience, was crawling around a beef slaughterhouse. My favorite job ever. To find they're trying to run a more efficient business. They're spending $1 million to improve their energy efficiency. And like most businesses, every electrical room has multiple little meters sitting in there that aren't connected to a network. I said, can you come and hook them up to a network somehow so we can start looking at this data so we can fire the energy efficiency guy because we don't think he's really helping, which is what ended up happening. You look at just a typical factory. I guarantee you in this building, there's electrical rooms with little panel meters on them that are sitting there and been sitting there for however long this building was built, and they never bothered to hook a network. So most of those meters have 2 data network connections on them. The ones that I've looked at recently, and nobody hooks the network up to them. It doesn't talk internet, but there's 2 network connections. They're able to connect up to multiple systems. And they usually slap it in as part of the subsystem. It's just sitting there. Huge amount of data. It's incredibly valuable. And why is it not being done today? Because the vendors that manufacture that meter want to make it really expensive. They want to sell you a system that's going to silo that data and force you to look at that data the way they want you to look at it. They don't want to provide an open standard data interface so that you can use it across your entire organization. This is our bread and butter, my company. Look up the water, electric meters, getting that data into a big-ass MongoDB database and making it available for the entire organization for multiple applications. Very simple solution. It's not expensive to do, but the legacy guys are the last ones to do it. This is the tip of the iceberg. So up till now, people were questioning that IoT is going to present a huge change in the big data world. I hope by now you're starting to reconsider that. I'm not done with my argument there, though, so sit tight. So I kind of led up to this in previous slides, but let's talk about how the Internet of Things revolution is going to happen. It's going to be a 3-phase revolution. First 2 are already happening. You got to connect. You got to get the legacy stuff to connect and start delivering on the promise of IoT, because this stuff isn't going away. 2, you got to be able to add the little single point. You know, gee, I just want a temperature sensor in my walk-in cooler. Why is that $10 sensor? Should cost me a couple $100 to be able to get that data up to a mobile app to tell my food services guys when they have a problem. How hard is this? Right? Solve that problem. Once you do this, and you're going and doing new construction, you're going and making a major infrastructure update, and you've seen how these guys have let you down and siloed your data, and you've seen the advantage of an open standard system, you really think they're going to buy the legacy stuff for the next time around? No. But industry needs to see IoT deliver on its promise and enjoy the advantage of a truly open data system, truly open APIs. And then all the legacy guys are going to start adding a REST API on their building automation, factory automation servers, but they're going to be the last to do it, I promise you. So that's how we think the revolution is going to happen. The data disruption is fueled by the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is not the revolution. It's the principles of how IoT is being deployed with open standards that is going to fuel the revolution. It's going to create new data sources. Hopefully, we see more legacy systems come online. We start getting access to data that we've not been able to correlate. And eventually see the adoption of new disruptive systems that finally adhere to an open standard. Data accessibility, as the data silos between systems go down, whole new opportunities for big data and analytics occur. I'm really excited about how your technology can take things at that level to start extracting out algorithmic views of what's happening in a system and share just a little piece of data. The mind boggles. I mean, I'm excited about that. So it creates entirely new opportunities for entrepreneurs. In summary, and I know I'm running through this, but I'm assuming there's going to be questions, so we'll leave more time for questions. Internet of Things will usher in the revolution. It will not be the revolution, but it is the trigger. It's going to be open APIs, open data standards. It'll raise the expectations of what is possible, causing industry, causing customers to demand more. And it will generate massive amounts of data. Now, I said something in the beginning of this talk about the internet bandwidth growing exponentially. And everyone constantly saying, well, it's going to top off at some point, right? No. Because every time you add more capacity, you find more needs for it, more applications for it, and then you need more capacity. Well, let's talk about what adding one sensor into the data set does. Does that just add one data point? That adds data point. Oh, if that data is now available to 20 different systems, that data gets replicated as many times as you can reuse that data. So I'm going to make the argument, make it right now. Analysts will probably disagree with me, but Internet of Things is going to cause data to grow exponentially. Because as soon as you start adding more useful data, you start taking all of this data that's been siloed and stranded, and you start getting it out into where it's accessible, you're going to have folks figuring out things to do with it and reuse that data. That data is going to get replicated. And data is going to be created on that data. So that's the next revolution. Internet bandwidth is going to continue to grow exponentially. Demand for bandwidth is going to continue to grow exponentially. But data is going to grow exponentially as well. As soon as you unleash these types of solutions, this will completely transform how we use the internet. The internet today is still considered a human in front of a computer talking to a server. And what all IoT represents is you now have things with no humans involved at all generating data. And if you can share that data with multiple systems, then you have one data point coming in and being used across multiple systems. I have a great little story to close on. I went to an IDC data conference about 2 months ago. There's a picture of a 14-year-old boy who's winning an award, an entrepreneurial award. This boy, believe it or not, 14 years old, found public data sources on breast cancer. Put it all into one website, did a little bit of analytics, and it became a resource for doctors and patients. This was public data. He didn't pay for a subscription. He was sitting in his parents' house with a computer, finding these data sources, and that's just one kid. And so you believe that the revolution is going to happen in the cloud with big vendors. If you believe that Internet of Things is going to be won by whoever has the Internet of Things platform that the most software developers develop on, you're crazy. The revolution is not in the cloud. It's now that this data is available, I can write a little Python program and add millions of dollars to the bottom line of my company, just taking data from these sources and doing something with it. That's the revolution. And so that then is, that data gets replicated again and used for another reason, and it produces new data. So I get a little excited about this because in Austin, people are still struggling with the spelling of IoT.
Even in Austin?
Even in Austin, especially in Austin. This is a telecom corridor. Folks were burned by the internet once, and they're not about to be burned again. So a little bit more cluefulness